morning Tic Tac. What a beautiful spring morning up here. So we're redoing the 21st Waterside book review, The Franklin Cover-Up by John W. DeCamp, also known as Senator of Nebraska during the 90s for 16 years. Anyways, basically in the last one, I made a mistake calling the Republican Party groomer Martin King instead of Larry King. So let me just start the story off again for you. So basically, the Franklin cover-up is about this scandal that happened in the late 80s, early 90s in the Republican Party. There's I think a Washington Post article and a few other articles of the time, like talking about like underage male escorts running around the White House in the Reagan-Bush administration. And this was like a huge scandal, and it all leads back to this guy Larry King, who was this African-American rising star, sort of token black of the Republican Party of the late 80s, early 90s in Nebraska and the Midwest. And basically, there's a lot of parapolitical sort of connections going on here. First of all, there's direct connections to Boys Town, Nebraska, which famously, there's a movie from the 1930s. It was a Catholic priest-run orphanage, and a lot of very interesting characters were orphans in that particular orphanage, including one Charles Manson. So yeah, basically, this was all hushed under the rug. It's very similar to Epstein. It's just on stateside instead of abroad, for the most part. What's very interesting about it is this is like the only sort of SRA and like child abuse that like it's very well documented. I know we have Fox Island and whatnot, but this is even more because this was in government. But basically, the Johnny Gosch case, which is why we have like missing kids on milk cartons, that started from Johnny Gosch. He's wrapped up into this, and also Paul Bonacci, not Paul Bernardo, sorry. Paul Bernardo's a Canadian serial killer, or serial rapist. Paul Bonacci was one of the victims named in this, and like the court proceedings are all there. He's not lying, and they've ruined his life. You can find interviews of him on YouTube from maybe 5-10 years ago. Yeah, probably closer to 10 years ago. Anyways, this is the first sort of parapolitical true conspiracy book that I read of like highbrow. You know, obviously I listened to Art Bell and George Norrie my whole life, and you know, sort of the lowbrow conspiracy stuff. But this I read about 10 years ago, probably going on 11 years now, and this is what started it all. This was started my research. So I highly recommend this book. Now, there's a researcher named Nick Bryant. He wrote this book, not the same book, obviously, his own version of events, or his own, you know, narrative of the events. And from what I hear, it's actually a better book. I'm gonna have to definitely check it out. But yeah, The Franklin Cover-Up, a crazy, crazy story. And strangely enough, no one really knows about it, you know, unless you look into these sort of topics. The average masses don't. And you know, how long will it be till Epstein is something that people just don't know about anymore? All right, over and out, TikTok.